So welcome everyone. I don't know if you are as fascinated by India as I was, but I've always been fascinated by India. I think it started probably in high school world cultures class when we learned about this remote country, and from then on, I went to college. My friends were taking off to join ashrams and find gurus, and the Beatles went to India, and I became fascinated with it and just assumed that someday I would go there. Well, the years passed, and I had kind of given up on it. I thought, it's okay. I don't need to go. I'll watch the movies and read the philosophy. And then a year ago last spring, I was having lunch with my friend Sarita Austin, who's a representative in the Vermont House. And she casually mentioned that she was traveling to India with some state representatives. And I thought, if Sarita's going to India, I am going to India. So I called Michelle Boslin, who's a representative from down in Brattleboro and who has led many trips to India, Nepal, China, and she has a foundation called Be Change. There's some information on it in the back. It sponsors schools in rural India. And her trips, at least the India trips, are centered around service in these schools. The trip was half service and half tourism. So here we are. We flew into Delhi, which is the capital of India. From there, our first week was spent in Dharamsala. So if you can just see this, it's way up north. It's in the Himalayan mountains. It's right next to Nepal. And if you cross the Himalayan mountains of Nepal, you end up in Tibet. So that's important to know for this little adventure we're going to go on. Just some very quick background on Dharamsala. It's the home of the Dalai Lama, and it's where he has set up the Tibetan exile refugee community. Why did he do that? Well, in 1950, the Chinese invaded Tibet. The Dalai Lama was 15. He had just been appointed the political and religious leader of Tibet. So for 5 years, he, as a teenager, went and met with Chinese officials and tried to negotiate. It didn't do any good. And in 1959, his life was endangered, and he escaped over the Himalayan mountains, traveling only at night with his entourage, his family. And this is how the Tibetan refugees escaped from Tibet and ended up in Dharamsala. It was very, very dangerous. So anyway, let's go back to Delhi. We landed there on a Friday night after a 21-hour plane ride, which I slept maybe 2 hours. And on Saturday, we were up bright and early for our tour of Delhi. Well, I wouldn't really recommend that. We had jet lag, it was hot, there was toxic smog, and, go ahead, I'll get back to that. Probably somewhat interesting Mughal architecture from the 1600s. We walked around gardens. We saw a lot of English monuments to British soldiers. But the most interesting thing we did in Delhi was go to a folk museum for Gandhi. It was called the Smriti House, and this is where he spent the last days of his life. Gandhi when he was a young man, a lawyer, went to South Africa for several years. And while he was there, he was kicked off a train, the first-class train, because of the color of his skin. And this set the stage for his civil disobedience and his nonviolent protests back when he went back to India. We can go ahead. This is just a delightful museum. This is a colonnade that you could walk through it and read about his life. And in the cellar, oh, I wish I'd taken pictures of all of these. They were these beautiful dioramas that showed his life. You can see the details. They weren't very big, but just exquisite. This shows the Salt March, which is when he, yes. Oh, sorry. Sorry. This is when he led a march to the sea, I think hundreds of miles, to protest the British tax on salt. So they were doing their own desalinization. They didn't need the British salt. And and the reason I put that slide in is that was what brought world attention to the Indian fight for independence. Okay. Beautiful quotes, beautiful pictures. This is the home that he lived in his final days, the Smriti House. And these are his final steps that he took out to the pagoda. He was leading a prayer service with his daughter. And while he was out there leading the service, he was assassinated by a Hindu fanatic. And I think that was in 1930. No, 1948, sorry. Okay. So, before I tell you about this van, we got up early Sunday morning, all excited. We had a plane ride up to Dharamsala. Got to the airport at 6 o'clock. I think the plane was supposed to leave at 8 or 9 for maybe a 2-hour flight. Well, we waited, and we heard announcements, but it was all in Indian, so who knew? And finally we found someone who spoke English and said, oh, there's no flights to Dharamsala. That airport is closed due to fog. There weren't any flights yesterday. There won't be any flights today, and we don't think there'll be any flights tomorrow. So we were panicking because this was Sunday morning. We had a meeting with the Dalai Lama at 8:45 Monday morning, which I'll tell you a little bit about how that happened. It was pretty amazing. So our leader, Michelle, got on the phone with Latif, who was a wheeler-dealer Indian travel agent. And he said, don't worry, I'll have a van for you there at 11. It's only 11 hours. You'll get there in time. So here we are, 10 people, 10 women who don't really know each other. And we all spent more like 15 hours in this van with all our luggage, traveling up through northern India and up into the Himalayan mountains. So I'll just say the last 2 or 3 hours of the trip, it was pitch dark, but the road was narrow. There were potholes that the driver couldn't figure out how to get around. The van stopped a couple of times. Miraculously, it started again. He'd kind of do some stuff, it would start. Our leader kept saying, if we don't get a flat tire, it'll be a miracle. So we were almost thinking we'd be hiking up the last few miles with our suitcases, but we didn't have to. We got there at 1 a.m. after really getting to know each other. So in India, the roads maybe 5, 6, 7 car widths wide, but no lanes. And this blowhorn, that's the only traffic guidance. And this is what they do. Beep, 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 beep. It's really noisy. It's frightening. My friend Sarita sat up front for a lot of the trip. I don't know how she did it. We were all a nervous wreck, and then we finally just got used to it, like, oh, well, so far so good. A lot of unfinished building projects. And this one just happens to have a Hindu god on the top. Families, this is how a lot of families traveled, which was pretty upsetting amid all this traffic. Often there would be little babies on these motorbikes. Oh, I thought this was funny. You can see this says breakfast, lunch, dinner. We did not stop there. So we arrive in Dharamsala, and I have to say it was everything that my expectations, everything I could have imagined. It was colorful, it was busy, there were cows in the street, just amazing. You can see the Himalayas, even with the smog. It was beautiful. Now, in Dharamsala, there's a very strong Tibetan presence because of the refugees who had escaped from Tibet. About 10 years ago, there were 100,000 Tibetan refugees there. That has dwindled because of a 2008 uprising in Tibet, which caused a Chinese crackdown, and it became very, very difficult for people to escape. I'll say more about that in a little bit. In Dharamsala, there are museums, libraries, social services, schools. I guess I will just say a little bit about what happened with Tibet. Since 2008, it's pretty much become a police state. There's no reference to the Dalai Lama allowed at all, and the Dalai Lama is everything to the Tibetan people. So one thing I read said that the Chinese are allowed to enter any home, day or night, and if they find any reference to the Dalai Lama, pictures or materials, they can be arrested and tortured. I talked to a Buddhist monk who had escaped from Tibet, and he said they used to put pictures of the Dalai Lama underneath the chalice so that they could sneak peeks at him. He also said there were Chinese monks who were spies in the monasteries. A lot of the monasteries, I read that 17,000 monks and nuns were evacuated from monasteries in Tibet. So culture is kind of disappearing. Okay, so we made it Monday morning after a few hours of sleep. We didn't sleep much on this trip. And this is at the Dalai Lama's temple. So Michelle, right here, had met with the Dalai Lama before. She had traveled in India quite extensively. And he's very old now. He's in his 90s and not giving many audiences at all. But she was able, because these women, all but four of us were in government, that she thought helped, and also because she knew Patrick Leahy, and apparently when the Dalai Lama was in Vermont, Patrick Leahy was very helpful to him. So she got us an audience, which was, we didn't know until the last minute that this was going to happen. So this is his office. I was just so grateful. I was overwhelmed. I have to say that everything you've heard about the Dalai Lama is true. To be in his presence, I just felt bathed in compassion and happiness and acceptance. It was a wonderful experience. So we got to the temple, and there were no phones. You left everything, very, very high security. And there were probably maybe 100 to 150 people there. A lot of these people were pilgrims from around the world. There were groups of monks, and every group of monks had a different color robe, so it was beautiful. We were the only Caucasians, almost the only Caucasians I saw the whole time we were in India. I think there was maybe a couple from Finland at this particular gathering. So all very systematic, very, very special. Outside in the temple, outside the temple, these are monks who lived at the temple, and they do, this is how they practice the teachings of Buddhism. One of them, the one standing, I think, lectures and argues with the one who's down below, and then gives this very loud slap. So it's very noisy. There's all this yelling and slapping and very dramatic. I had read about it, and I was really pleased to see it happening. It's like the teacher and the student, I think, or something. So around the temple is a walk called the Kora Walk. It's a 1-mile walk. You go counterclockwise, and it's a pilgrimage walk. People come from all over to do it. It's to bring blessings, to meditate, to bring merit. Thousands of prayer flags. These are called mani stones, and they are carved stones with, I guess, Hindu or not Hindu, probably Buddhist teachings. They were just beautiful, and there were hundreds and hundreds of them. If you think about carving these, how long it must have taken and how intricate they were. People have been bringing them for many, many years. These are the prayer wheels that as you walk, you spin them. Probably there were over 100 of them on the Kora Walk. And you would see prayer wheels all over. They were downtown, they were in every temple you'd go to. Just beautiful. Oh, and we had lots of friends as we did the Kora Walk. One morning we went early, and we would always take something for the beggars along the way. There are lots of poverty and begging, and we wanted to have bananas to give to the people along the way. So the monkeys quickly discovered that we had bananas in our backpacks and attacked us. So, go ahead. But they were beautiful. I don't know. I forgot. This is a stupa, which is another very holy monument. You can see the prayer wheels down below here. Very beautiful. Monks walking the Kora. This is where we stayed in Dharamsala. It was a wonderful guest house, but I kind of showed this because it was on the side of a mountain, and you'd go down these little alleys and upstairs and then up other alleys. I couldn't find my room. I got lost so many times, but go ahead. I really lucked out with the room. I got a room on the end with 2 windows and a porch. I thought I was in heaven. It was just amazing, except that you couldn't really see the Himalayas. It was very smoggy. Go ahead. a little peek one morning there. It got a little bit clearer. These are kind of views from my porch. I enjoyed watching the people go about their days on their porches. Go ahead. Although everywhere you looked on people's roofs and in their gardens, there would be shrines. Probably some of them Hindu shrines. And the dog found a little shelter there. So in Dharamsala is the Yangling Primary School. And Michelle had some involvement with this. I think she provided some books for them and maybe some teacher salaries. So we volunteered in this school in the morning. Everything was, they all spoke Tibetan. Go ahead. Every room had a picture of the Dalai Lama, a meditating figure that says underneath, what you think you become. This is in young children's classrooms. Go ahead. And of course, the Tibetan flag. These children were beautiful. They did a song and dance for us up on the roof. So sincere. This is a woman who's learning how to make Venetian glass beads. There's a great effort in Dharamsala to teach skills to the Tibetans so that they can make a living. Just some more street scenes here. Let me see. I wanted to point out, you can see here along every street are these drop-offs into a ditch of water that you didn't want to think what was in there. We were walking with suitcases half the time and carrying things, and it was very treacherous. Traffic jams with cows. I don't know if you can see, but all along these streets were stalls of people selling things. Our group did a lot of shopping. And everything from jewelry to pottery to scarves, brass pots. Just fascinating. You could find many, many treasures there. Street food, and you can see behind them prayer wheels. They're in front of a temple. We weren't allowed to eat anything other than cooked vegetables, rice. No, nothing. We were often served tomatoes and cucumbers and onions. We couldn't eat those. But a lot of times you would see the chickens on the floor, on the ground, under their cooking areas. This is a man who is on the street cleaning shoes. Those are Sarita's shoes. He gave us quite a story about his family and the many children he had. Someone went back later and got a totally different story, but the Bleeding Hearts in my group ended up showering him with clothing and gifts, so he did well. The other service we did in Dharamsala was work with monks in helping them learn English. So this is called Tibet World, which was just a little area in a building where the monks would come. Some of them lived there. Some of them had escaped from Tibet. There were also monks from Bhutan and India and Sri Lanka. And I think this woman had actually escaped from Tibet recently. So we met with them. We did kind of organized activities to help them learn English. It's okay. Up on the roof, I think this was our closing goodbye ceremony. I showed this because there were a lot of dogs, a lot of stray dogs, but look at them, you know, they look pretty nice. And I thought, gosh, you know, these dogs really look great. Well, then I figured out it's because everybody just throws out their food. And the dogs have lots to eat, so they were very sweet. This is a hike we took up to a waterfall, which was kind of so-so. You can see it's very cloudy. A man and his wife and child doing music along the way. Oh, I thought these were hilarious. Don't stop, even if you're tired. Stop when you're done. Ask not what your country can do. Ask not what you can do for your country. Ask what's for eats. Do not feel sad for your tears, as rocks never regret the waterfalls. I don't know. I don't know where that came from. Here we are up the waterfall. There were a lot of Indian tourists up here. Picture of me and Sarita. Some of you may know her. The other thing interesting about India is most of India is Hindu. So you'd be walking around. This is Ganesh, the elephant of wisdom. And the monkey, represents strength. So there are a lot of religions in India. Hindu is the main religion, but there's also Islam, Sikhs, Christianity, and Buddhism. They seemed pretty, I know there's been some Muslim and Hindu problems, but everything seemed pretty copacetic to us. So, the other thing about Dharamsala is you often would see kind of billboards on the street with quotes from the Dalai Lama, and a lot of them were about education. This is just about teaching compassion. This one is about how we need to learn to analyze all sides of things so we can look at reality from more than one angle. He had a lot to say about education. This was on the way to his temple. What I propose is a compassionate revolution, a call for radical reorientation away from our habitual occupation with self. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. Just so moving in the midst of all the traffic and the people. And Tibetan rugs, every thread, every knot tied by hand. They were just gorgeous. A lot of the women did buy Tibetan rugs to have mailed home. I couldn't figure out, they were so bright, I couldn't figure out where I would ever put one. But go ahead. Oh, I wanted to show what almost all our meals were like. We have rice. I think this is the dal. This is some kind of yogurt. And then it was either cauliflower or potatoes with spices. The vegetables that we couldn't eat, and then the chapatis. This is another meal. I think it's cucumbers with yogurt, probably the potatoes, and again, maybe some spinach, cauliflower, and the naan bread, which was really delicious. But I couldn't wait to get home and have a salad and some chicken.
Now, why couldn't you eat this the other can be?
It just wasn't safe to eat for us because we didn't have the ability to digest it without getting sick. This is a library in Dharamsala, and I took this picture just to show you the incredible painting. The colors were just mind-boggling. Everywhere painting. You're going to see a lot of this. I mean, just look at the intricacy of this. Many, many gold statues of the Buddha. Some monks doing a sand mandala. So here we are in Norbalenka. Norbalenka was outside of Dharamsala. It was built in the 1980s, and it was built as a way to preserve the Tibetan arts and Tibetan culture. This was a monk that I kind of got to be friends with, and we invited him to come along. At Norbalenka, artisans would pair up with master craftsmen. Here we have someone practicing the painting. Wood carving, which I think is kind of what they used for the Mani stones. This is applique, and this is a small applique piece, but just remember this for something that's coming up. Again, just the colors and the paintings are so beautiful. You can see here the 3 jewels. This is the 3 jewels of Buddhism. It stands for the Buddha, the Dharma, which is his teachings, and the Sangha, which is the group of worshipers. And here again, you have the 3 jewels. The conch shell stands for wisdom. And up here you have the lotus, which is you probably know, a symbol of Buddhism, coming from the mud and rising into glory. You can see, I practically died when I went in here. I thought, oh my God, he's here. It had this life-size picture of the Dalai Lama in front of this beautiful Buddha. So, hold on here. So, the Buddha was born in Nepal in 500 BCE. And he was raised sheltered in a palace as a prince. His father didn't want him to ever leave or see anything negative, anything upsetting. When he was maybe in his 20s, he talked a servant into taking him for a ride. And he went out, and for the first time, he saw old people, he saw people starving, he saw sickness, he saw death, and he couldn't let it go and left home to find the meaning of suffering. He wandered for about 6 years with a group of ascetics. They didn't eat. And finally, at one point, he was on the verge of death, and a woman came up to him and offered him rice pudding, and he ate it. And that was the birth of the middle way, which is a concept of Buddhism that you don't go to either extreme. He wasn't going to be a prince, and he wasn't going to starve himself. So the middle way is what the Buddha chose. Again, all the walls in this temple. This is still at Norbalanka, just lined with beautiful, beautiful paintings. Lots of offerings here, you can see. Okay. Go ahead. Oh, this is the applique. This was probably, I don't know, like 15 feet tall, and it's all applique. You can back up a little bit so they can see how big it is. Huh. Just everything was just kind of overwhelming and mind-blowing. You just couldn't believe a lot of this. More painting. Go ahead. This is Green Tara, who is the female, for people who need like a female goddess. That's her. She's highly revered in Buddhism. I just took this picture. We're getting ready to leave Dharamsala. This was the temple of the 4th Dalai Lama, which I didn't realize there were levels, but there's the top one. But I just thought it was so beautiful. And there were monks inside the temple chanting. We could peek in, we couldn't take pictures, but it was very holy and very moving here in the Himalayas. Kind of cleared up a little bit for us before we left, which was nice. Okay, so now we're heading down to Bihar, which is east of Dharamsala, and it couldn't be more different. You have the beautiful Himalayas. Bihar is flat farmland, one of the poorest states in India. And this is where Michelle's schools, her Indian schools are that she sponsors. Indigo Air. At the airport, you couldn't even see the plane in the next runway. It was so smoggy, but fortunately they didn't cancel the flight. We got in very late at night. They met us with marigold garlands. They were so nice to us. This was the view outside of my window the next morning. You can see the smog. It was horrible. The owner of the guest house and the director of the school, which is right next door, you'll see in a minute, his family worked this farm. I think that's rice. They're separating the rice from the shaft there. This is the Premameda school, which was right next to the guest house. And this was the school that was better off. You can see they have uniforms, which Be Change Foundation paid for. They have shoes. Be Change Foundation provided them with one healthy meal a day, which was probably the only food, really healthy food that they got. Very well behaved. They did a little opening ceremony for us, and most of it was about Indian independence from Britain. Very much on their minds still. They all lined up, we're ready to take a walk, and we're walking down to a Bodhi tree that had a Buddha statue on each side. Oh, before we went, we're serving lunch. This is what they had: rice, dal, potatoes, bread. Walking to the Bodhi tree, this is the cake man. He came up on his little bike and he had a big bin full of cake. So we got every child a piece of cake. They were so thrilled. I felt kind of bad because it was so unhealthy, but oh well. This is the Bodhi tree with a different Buddha on each side. And I don't have a picture of it, but all of us made, with the children, a giant circle around the tree. And there's our group. Delphina and Katie with two of their friends. I love that picture. Some younger siblings along the way. This kind of shows what the living conditions were. It was shocking poverty. So that night we were invited to the director's home, and his wife made us a wonderful meal. And then she had a big stack of saris of all different colors. And we each got to pick a sari and put it on. You can see some of them here. It took forever to get these saris on. And then the teenage daughter put on Bollywood music, and everybody danced around. It was so much fun. They were just so thrilled to have us there. They love Michelle. They just worship her for all she's done for the school. This is henna. They have it's like hot wax, and you put it on your hand, and you leave it on for, I don't know, like many hours, and then you wash it off, and you have the red henna. Now here we're on the way to, I think we're on the way to the sewing school here. Not quite sure, but oh yes, this is a little village where there's a sewing school, which Michelle also sponsors. Go ahead, this is way out in the country. You can see the dung patties that are drying in the sun that they'll use for fuel. And these are the women who have learned to sew, and the idea is they learn to sew so they can go back to their villages and sell clothing. We were trying to donate some money so that they could take a sewing machine back with them. Right now, all the sewing machines are at the school. I took this picture because the whole town came out to see us. But the young children, the 1, 2, 3-year-olds just screamed when they saw us. They'd never seen white people, and they thought we were ghosts. They were really, really scared. Oh, it was quite an event. Beautiful women. And here they are, giving us the marigold garlands. You can see the sewing machine in the back there. This is a school, and Rajesh is the leader of this school, and this school was very poor. You can see they had to bring their young siblings because most of them were in charge of their young siblings. But again, the teachers were trained. Go ahead. It's up on the roof. No shelter to keep out the sun. A sleeping brother. Here they are lining up to get their lunch. Again, probably their one healthy meal of the day. And here we are serving lunch. The younger siblings didn't get their own food. I think the older kids had to share with them. Go ahead. Washing their dishes. Closing ceremonies. This one was quite religious. You can see the children, all kinds of dress. Not many with shoes. Okay, so now we're in Bodh Gaya. Bodh Gaya is the setting for Buddha's enlightenment. After he discovered the middle way, with the rice pudding and deciding not to be an ascetic, he sat under the Bodhi tree and touched the ground, ate the rice pudding, touched the ground, and apparently was enlightened. So the Bodhi tree, or some descendant of the Bodhi tree, is in Bodh Gaya. And Bodh Gaya is a pilgrimage site for Buddhists from all around the world. Many, I think there's 16 different temples. Just looking here, I have Korea, Bhutan, Vietnam, China, Japan, 16 different temples. So here we have, I was glad I found this. This is the woman offering the rice pudding to the Buddha, so kind of a turning point. It was a painting on one of the temples. Giant Buddha. This was built, I think, in the 1980s. It was pretty astounding. Here we are outside of the Mahabodhi temple. So the Mahabodhi temple is the setting for the Bodhi tree. Everything was taken away from us. No phones, nothing. We couldn't take anything in there. And I'm so sad because it was the holiest place you can imagine. Just, first of all, a beautiful temple, of course. Everything draped with garlands of marigolds. And hundreds of groups of mostly monks. There were other tourists like us, but these monks would travel together, sit together, chant, meditate, and the Bodhi tree was there, or the great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter of the Bodhi tree was there, and many of the pilgrims were gathered around the Bodhi tree. This is a very, very holy site. This is outside the gate where we are getting some coconut milk. This is Nikesh, who lived at our guest house and agreed to give us a cooking lesson because a lot of the women wanted a cooking lesson. So this is the table where we ate and where we prepared food, looking out at the gardens. Lots of cauliflower, which was one of their mainstays. Here they are out gathering the cauliflower for the lunch. It took forever, and I realized the reason it took forever was we had to spend all this time on the spices and the herbs, peeling the ginger and the mincing the garlic, and I don't know what other spices there were. I should have remembered, but there were a lot. So we worked hard. It took a long time. And there we have the piles of food. And here it is. Doesn't look like much for all that work. But we appreciated it because we were hungry by then. This is one of the stalls along the edge of the road. You can see the vegetables and beautiful brass pots. This is Rajesh's home. We were invited into his home this night too. And he's college educated. He was considered middle class. This is the street he lived on. It was down a country lane that you wouldn't want to be caught there at night. But there was a door right next to this, and you walked upstairs into his apartment, which was 3 rooms. Oh, these 2 boys on the right are his sons. beautiful boys. That's his nephew on the left. So there was a kitchen and 2 bedrooms for 5 people. Rajesh, his wife, the 2 boys, and his mother, and the kitchen. So our dinner was served up on a concrete roof with a bare bulb. So even though he was considered wealthy, both college educated, she was a social worker, their home was modest by our standards. Here she's teaching us how to make chai tea, which we drank every day. So delicious. And now we're getting ready to leave Bodh Gaya. So the train station was just horrible. We didn't know where we were supposed to be. Nobody spoke English. It was so crowded you couldn't move. We eventually found our first class car, but just in time. And it was really nice. We each had a little bed, and we're taking the train back to Delhi. Once back to Delhi, the group kind of separated. One group was going to fly back to Boston. The group from Burlington were going on a side trip to Agra to see the Taj Mahal. And when this Taj Mahal trip came up, I said, no, I just don't think I'm going to do that. I know I'm going to be tired. It's the end of the trip. Blah, 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 blah. I think I was not feeling well at the time, or I don't know, but I didn't sign up for the trip. So it ended up that I was on my own in Delhi for a whole day. Our flight left at midnight that night, and I was prepared to hang out in the hotel lobby for the whole day. So you remember the wheeler dealer travel agent. He calls me up the night before and says, what are you doing staying in Delhi? You're near Agra. You'll never get to see the Taj Mahal again. You need to go. I've got it all figured out. I have a travel companion for you. This is Weiss, who was our tour guide in Delhi. Weiss will go with you. I have a driver. You'll have your own driver. And when you get to the Taj Mahal, you will have a private tour guide. Like, is this for real? I just didn't know whether to trust him, and I just didn't know, but it was about $200. So at that point, I had some leftover rupees, and I said, oh, okay, I'll go ahead. So this is Weiss and me on our way to the Taj Mahal. Again, the traffic was horrible, and it took forever, but this is the Red Mosque, which is the worldly side of things. The Taj Mahal was built in the 1600s. It took 22 years to build, built by Shah Jahan for his wife, as a mausoleum for his wife. By the time we got there, it was hazier. The best time to see it is morning or evening. It's very beautiful. Now these minarets, they lean slightly outwards. So if there's any problem with the ground, they will fall out. And I did read that because of disappearing groundwater, it's not terribly stable. So hopefully it'll be okay. This is all carved marble, hand carved. And this is all inlaid semi-precious stone. These are all quotes of the Quran, all around the doorway, all going up the pillars. Apparently they engineered it so they made the writing at the top larger so that you could see it from the bottom. There were several just astounding engineering feats in building this, to say nothing of the craftsmanship. Carvings. And Weiss, my travel companion, was just so thrilled to be here. The Taj Mahal means everything to Indians. They just are so proud of it. And he had never been there. He lived in Delhi. He'd never been there. So he was just thrilled. And here I am. Lost my hairbrush, as you can see. I don't know. They're all over the place. And here I am, my last day in India, just my dream come true trip. So thank you for coming and sharing with me. I did want to say there is information on Be Change in the back, and if you'd like more information, you can leave your email and I'll send it to you. So, I'm sorry I don't know about the marigolds. I'm trying to find out. They're all over the place. It must be, yeah. Okay, thank you. Do you have, yes?
How did the organizer get involved with Be Change?
I'm not sure. I know her mother did a lot of travel in China and India as well. But I don't know that I ever found out how she got involved with these schools. It's kind of unusual because it's in a really out of the way place in India. Oh, and I wanted to say, I don't know if you remember hearing about the floods in India in September. This was in Bihar and it was at these schools. We had a lot of contact with them. They had lost a lot of access to their water and lost a lot of their crops and foods. And we ended up sending them quite a bit of money to help them out. None of the children were all okay. And I think the schools are back up and running again now, but it was very, very sad. So.
You said Michelle had traveled to India many times with many different groups.
Yeah, Michelle taken lots of groups, not lots, but probably 3 or 4 other groups to India. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.